Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Tonight I'm going to an All Elite Wrestling show, AEW Grand Slam Australia in Sydney. And it's the first time I've went to AEW, so a bit of background. I don't have the mic on, so sorry for the poor audio. I haven't been to a wrestling event since 2016, the last time WWE ran Sydney. Now, since then, Australian wrestling fans, and mainly Sydney wrestling fans, have been starved for wrestling in terms of the world wrestling. So WWE haven't ran Sydney in 10 years this year. So the last time they ran Sydney was 2016. Now they have ran Melbourne in last year. They did a show in Melbourne. They've mainly been running Perth. And I think they did one in Adelaide last year, WWE. Last year, the AEW also ran Brisbane, but they didn't do a second show in Australia. So Sydney fans really haven't had world wrestling in about 10 years. Now, we do have our independent promotions here. We do have people like Matt Cardona who come down and appear on independent shows. But this is the first time in about 10 years that a wrestling show, a world wrestling show, the main like American companies, have ran Sydney. So I'm going to it, and I'm wearing my Adam Cole t-shirt, All Elite Baby. I had a couple of options. I had the Sting t-shirt. I had Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson's. I had Rated R Edge, Cope, or whatever he goes by now. I had a couple of options, but they're all kind of either injured or left. I had AEW is Jericho, which feels inappropriate because he might have left AEW now. But yeah, I'm going to be blogging from the show. I am not posting this video till after it's happened, so you'll see this long after the events happen. But I think it'll be cool to go to an AEW show. Some people know I've been critical of AEW. I've been all for AEW. There's a lot of times where I go back and forth on AEW, but I think I can agree, and we can all agree, another major promotion that wrestlers can go and apply their craft at is great. Whether it's TNA, whether it's AEW, whether it's New Japan, no matter where, outside of big WWE, it's good to have other promotions. But yeah, here's my blog from the event, and yeah, I'll put whatever in here. So I'm at Olympic Park now, which is where the Olympics happened in 2000. And I find out that there's like an Ed Sheeran show on next door to the wrestling. So, you know, I'm surrounded by a bunch of Ed Sheeran fans, and I'm going to the old school wrestling. Okay, idea, since Ed Sheeran's next door in the Olympic Stadium, why doesn't he, when he's finished his set, come next door and face MJF for the Triple B? I mean, the old Shoutout Bank Arena here, or formerly known as the Sydney Superdome. This venue has been iconic for wrestling, music events, and everything. Pretty iconic to see wrestling here for the first time in 10 years. Okay, so a little bit of backstory is in order. This used to be the Sydney Superdome. It's also been known as Allphones Arena, Acer Arena, and so on through the years. Now it's Shoutout Bank Arena. But the old Sydney Superdome has hosted so much wrestling events through the years. The last time a wrestling show ran Shoutout Bank Arena, or the former Sydney Superdome, or at the time it was Acer Arena, this was a WWE show in 2016. And the main event of that show, I think, was John Cena and AJ Styles, because I went and seen it. Or it might have been Roman Reigns, but I don't remember. Either way, long time history of wrestling at this venue. Good to see some All Elite tonight, and who knows what we're going to see. Maybe Dean, or not Dean Ambrose, John Moxley. We're definitely going to see MJF defend Triple B, but yeah, Shoutout Bank Arena, the former Sydney Superdome. Another bit of backstory about Sydney and wrestling. The last time a televised special came out of Sydney, it was probably the year 2000 or 2001, and it was WCW at the Sydney Entertainment Centre. I don't think a live wrestling event has broadcast from the old school Acer Arena, now it's Shoutout Bank Arena, but the Sydney Superdome. I don't think there's ever been a televised wrestling event from the Superdome, you know? Pretty iconic. Not since the Entertainment Centre days has it happened. So behind me, I'm at the back of the arena. They've got the television production trucks, which is going to broadcast AEW around the world this Saturday, or Sunday in Australia, because Saturday in America will be Sunday here. But yeah, this is not going to be uploaded till far later, but still pretty cool to have live wrestling broadcasting from Australia in 2026. So as I do the announcements right here, I'm going to try to talk over it, but there's a lot of things, a lot of knocks about AEW as of late. This looks like a pretty good crowd behind me in front of Shoutout Bank Arena. So I'm just saying, they're pulling a crowd in Sydney. I hope this tells Tony Khan in the future, run Sydney more often. That would be pretty cool to have like a retirement tour for Adam Copeland, or like even have Daniel Bryan. I don't know if Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, sorry. But it will be pretty cool to have all of these guys come back next year and the year after. Always run Sydney, you know? It's a good sign to see wrestling in Sydney. So while I wait for the doors to open, they open at about 6:30. there's a bit of history with me and wrestling in this building. The first time I saw a wrestling event in the Sydney Superdome was 2005. The main event of that show was, I believe, Dave Bautista, well, I'll say the first two first. So Triple H and Ric Flair versus Dave Bautista and another man who we don't often talk about anymore, Chris Benoit. That was the main event of the first wrestling show I ever saw at the Sydney Superdome. And it's now called Kudos Bank, but it will always be the Sydney Superdome to me. You know, wrestling in this building has a long history.
Since this is such a great crowd here in Sydney, this has got to be one of the best crowds we're going to see all year. Maybe the very best crowd. You may be the very best crowd we see all year in the entire world. How about I change the format? Why don't we make these great fans in Sydney the show open to Grand Slam Australia? To you. He's the hometown hero, ladies and gentlemen, the TNT champion, the proto star, Kyle Fletcher.
So a few post-show thoughts. We just finished AEW Grand Slam Sydney, and yeah, what an absolute banger of a show. We had MJF retaining Triple B, we had Moxley retaining his title, we had Kyle Fletcher retaining his title, we had a few real interesting moments. Obviously, Wheeler got his head shaved, and yeah, now he's bald, but yeah, absolute banger of a show. Tony Khan should be commended for what he's put on here in the bones of the Sydney Superdome. So much wrestling history in this arena, and it's really good to see wrestling back in Sydney. For the first time in 10 years, a world wrestling company has come back to Sydney. Tony Khan, do it again. And AEW, freaking awesome. I can't wait to be here in 2027, 2028. Can't wait to see AEW back. And what a show. AEW Grand Slam, signing off, Sydney. Absolute banger of a show. One final thing from the AEW show. Ended up getting a long sleeve shirt because why not? Now signing off. Peace.